Welcome to our panel and of experts. And I believe this is a really smart way of thinking in a conference. Usually you can get a little bit kind of one-eyed, but the idea, is this a bit loud? Is it okay? No, come in. The idea of this panel discussion is really coming from the understanding that deep tech innovation, deep tech startup, is not a one-sided thing. It needs to deal with, kick it around with, get in partnerships with, do business with all kind of different sectors and experts. And so here we will ask these guys to present themselves, but we've got people from large industry players, venture capitalists, biotech, accelerators, universities, in all manner of different aspects. And what we really want to hear from you is, for once we will ask you to be thoroughly egoistic and think from your sector, from your business, from where you stand, what are your considerations, what are your motivations, and so on. And we got an hour or so to get into it. What is, if you have 2 minutes, what would be your most important things for your sector or where you work in dealing with a deep tech startup? So what I'll do, I'll ask you to give a 2-minute starter, and then we'll get going. And we might disagree, we might agree, we might have completely different opinions. That's completely all right. If 1 or 2 of you or 5 of you do have questions, please interrupt. I'll take care of the facilitation. We have as much time as we have, and hopefully some of these guys, will you be around for some hours? They'll be around so you can grab hold of them. So, that's the setting. We want to hear your thoughts about it. And will you please give us, in a couple of minutes, your name and where you're coming from, and what your motivation in dealing with this area. Will you please start? And give them a hand.
Hello together. It's really nice to be here. It's exciting. It's a great place, Latvia, Riga, and I'm really happy to be part of this event. And I'm Dr. Nazlim Bagcivan. I'm Director of Coating Technology, and with the global responsibility for all topics related to technology and surface technology at Schaeffler. Schaeffler is an automotive and industry supplier, a global company with more than 90,000 employees worldwide. We have more than 70 production plants. We have 18 R&D centers. And all our activities, our business is driven by quality, technology, and innovation. And with regard to that, we have filed almost 2,400 patents in 2017. As a technology leader in this field, our motivation, our vision is to shape the mobility of future. In this regard, we think that e-mobility, Industry 4.0, and digitalization are key opportunities in this field. And I think that the view about mobility is changing very dynamically in the society, and we are going through this phase. And at Schaeffler's view, the chances that startups can hold have to be utilized, and that's the reason why we are here. And well, in the end, we want to contribute to make the world a little bit smarter, safer, and greener. And we want to make a positive impact on our world. And when I look into the room, I think I could find many people here who want to do the same. And that's one of the reasons why are we here.
Really good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ben Ferrari, and some of you may know Toby Moore and the team at ICFM Baltics. So through that operation, we've been involved in early stage investing in the Baltics for the past 10 years. I find myself sitting on one side next to a company that we sold a company to, and on the other side, a company we're invested in. So that feels like a good seat to have for us. You ask about our perspective, and the reality is, and this is what I'd really ask you all to understand, is my perspective is what my shareholders want, the people who gave us the money to use. And they want extraordinary returns. Because remember, these people have taken a big risk. Investing at an early stage is a very big risk.
Sure.
And they need to see how that money is going to be put to work, how that value is going to be preserved through multiple funding cycles, and how they are going to get the returns they deserve for having taken that risk. And I think I'll maybe offer a thought to start conversation is one of the things that companies that come to us never seem to really understand is that I want to know what my money will look like after multiple funding cycles. Not take my money and then take somebody else's money, then somebody else's money. We want to know how will we be diluted? How will we have to defend our value? What's the story? So it's not just about that first piece of money. It's about creating and preserving and growing value across the whole cycle. And that's what we want to understand with companies that we support.
Great, thanks.
Hello everybody, my name is Anton Adamovitch and I'm CEO of Conelum Biotech, a startup whose mission is to disrupt the microbiological diagnostics market by introducing absolutely new tool that would speed up diagnostics more than 50 times. So instead of 5 days, to have the same results in microbiological diagnostics in 3 hours. So yeah, that's in essence is the mission of the startup. And if speaking about perspective from which I see what's important, it's what startup, what CEO, what company needs for getting to success. So, which means that stuff that it has to have around that would allow the startup to create value, to make shareholders, investors, and everybody happy in being in this initiative, the startup. And for this, I basically highlight 3 things, which is access to the industry, access to the early stage money, and most important is access to tools to build a smooth team. So those tools might be intellectual, most likely. So yeah, from my side, it's those 3 points I would like to highlight for now.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Ella Kalniņa. I represent here a Commercialization Reactor, where I work as a leader of acceleration program. I also have my own startup. I'm CEO and co-founder of Arnabion, and we are developing a new agri-tech product. We are the accelerator where actually new startups are born. We are the company which creates startups. We are trying to match the technology outputs, the research outputs, good science with entrepreneurial talent and spirit, which is enormously difficult task, I should say, because these people come from different worlds, different perspectives, they speak different language, very often they don't understand each other, and of course, if you speak to researchers, they have no idea what investment is. They always think investment is a part of a research grant, so they treat investment as a research grant. On the other side, we have entrepreneurs who are willing to become successful, who want to be successful. Very often they lack patience, because in deep tech that really takes a long time. And very often they lack a systemic approach, because the deep tech and startup building, to our mind, is a very complicated systemic type of activities. And in our accelerator, we are trying to merge these 2 realities, 2 worlds. And we like to have fun. We all people who are very enthusiastic about the work we are doing, and for us as Accelerator, this is extremely important. And of course, because we invest in our startups as well, we want to have a good return on the investment in future and see the success of your startups maybe in some 3 and 5 years.
Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Barry Timmins, and I'm from the University of Huddersfield. For those who don't know where Huddersfield is, we're in the north of England, roughly between Manchester and Leeds. We're a moderately sized university of about 2,500 to 3,000 researchers and about 22,000 students. My role at the university is around business engagement and business promotion. So I first met Ella through her spin-out company where the university has some unique capacity in chemical synthesis. So we are working with Ella's company, synthesizing some of her chemicals for the company. The other aspect of my role is around doing something with the technology that we create from the university, so through spin-outs or licensing that technology to companies. And my main interest here is, you know, as a public university, we receive research monies from the government and research councils, and we have to show the relevance of our research to those bodies through benefit to business, and that could be either through licensing or startups. So that's my primary interest.
Thank you. And last of our panel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mikko Korhonen. I'm representing today EIT, European Institute of Innovation and Technology, fully supported by the European Union. Our mission is to foster and facilitate the innovation and entrepreneurship in Europe. EIT operates throughout its 6 operative arms, each having a specific industry focus, ranging from health tech, food tech, mining and metal industry to energy, climate, and IT, digital technologies. Our motivation to be here today, tomorrow with you and in Latvia in general and the Baltic states, we want to reach out not only to startups, but all the other actors and players in the ecosystem. What we can do, we can support, first of all, funding, but also access to all sorts of programs and accelerator programs and so forth. We have been active in the Western Europe for quite some time, and now it's time to reach out to Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. We have here 3 teams with me. We have a small booth outside the hall. Please feel free to join us and have a further discussion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good, we'll be starting now, and I thought maybe we should get into the hard end of this subject. Mr. Ferrari, you spoke about at the one hand, there needs to be a return on investment from people who put money in. What they're interested in is their money. They might not even understand the technology. At the other end, what we're talking about here is high risk, really complicated stuff, highly cross-disciplinary technology, needs a lot of experimentation if we need to. So I would like to hear from those of you on the panel that has thought about it. Other businesses, you know, you could say investment, return on investment, and the actual product is closer to, but this is really far from each other. How do you think? How should we think about this spread and this this difficulty? Yeah, please.
Well, I think the panel you have represents, it's an ecosystem. And I think the answer to your question is an ecosystem. It's not one player taking that whole burden. Because I think that there is an enormous role for intelligent public funding of early stage innovation. I personally am a big fan of incubation being a subsidized activity. It's what governments should do. But the closer you get to the market, the less role there is for government. And that's where the actors such as ourselves need to take over.
Sure.
And the way to create an ecosystem that functions is to have highly competent actors using public money to de-risk to the point where the likes of us can get involved on a reasonable basis. And, you know, and we're beginning to see that kind of ecosystem develop. And that's where I think attention needs to be focused on designing that early stage ecosystem of support.
Sure. So that public involvement is crucial.
I'm a huge believer in intelligent use of public funding.
Sure.
And that's in universities, and it's in accelerators, it's in, you know, broader multinational institutions. I'm a big fan of it,
Sure.
but I'm also adamant that there is a point after which public money distorts and, I think, does not help innovation.
We can maybe get into that later, please.
Yeah. So we actually are working in an area sometimes which is invisible to other people, because we are in the transition. We are taking technology from the university, which was funded by public research money, and some universities are lucky to have some funding to support spin-outs. But then when this technology is out of the university, it's not already a part of university, still it's too early to go to people like Ben Ferrari and the venture capital, because it's really too early. And this is where we step in as accelerator and acceleration money. But very often people don't realize there is a huge gap. This area is a bridge which we need to cross. And very often there is no bridge. And we find it very difficult to explain that this stage, this phase of startup development is where most of support is needed, transitional support. And probably this should be public money, some risk money, but we'd like to raise awareness that this is a bridge which is long, which is dangerous, but if we need to get to the other bank, we really need to go across it.
Sure.
I would like,
yeah, please.
I would like to add something. I think the idea is very important, the idea or the picture of a bridge. On the other side of the bridge, you cannot let your bridge end up in the air. So you need someone on the other hand. And actually at this point, we as Schaeffler have quite a lot of activities because we think, as I said, the future of mobility is changing very dynamically, and we see a great chance in the way how startups are working, because they used to be very fast and innovative, and so we created I think a very excellent platform. We have different activities in this field to get closer to the startups. We have, for example, our own venture forum where we invite startups. We have incubation activities. We are, for example, a founding member of a tech incubator in Nuremberg, so where we are. And we are also a member of innovation labs, partner in innovation labs, for example, in Berlin, Factor of Berlin. So we, as a global and big and large company, have understood that it's important to get closer to the startups,
Sure.
and to provide a platform for the communication. And I think to communicate the ideas on the right channels is extremely important.
And how does startups react? Do you have the right hoodies? Do you have the? Is your culture amiable? Does it work together with startups?
Well, that's an excellent question. I wouldn't say it's a clash of cultures, but obviously we need to find a common platform, a common basis to communicate and to collaborate. And so far from our experiences, it works quite well. For example, last year in the Venture Forum, we had more than 100 applications.
Okay.
And I think it's requires also on our side change of our mindset, a little bit of our culture. But as long as you are willing to do this, I think it's working, and we see really some success already after 1.5 years.
Sure. Whilst Mr. Ferrari is talking, I want to really give it back to you. You know, usually in conferences, the true understanding is there's more intelligence out here than here. So this is not an offense to you, but just a reaction. It's more an offense to all the conferences where people don't get to speak. So what I would like to, give you the opportunity, think of, you've got some brilliant, people up here that knows their business, that knows their sector. Please ask them questions. They don't need to be like completely fully formed university language, just really from your interest. So please, Mr. Ferrari.
I would just like to respond, I think, and partly to your own question. I would recommend that anyone out there involved in a startup takes every opportunity to talk to members from industry, to go to these events, to go to these forums, because ultimately this is your customer that we're talking about. And you need to absorb every possible piece of information about what your customer wants. But I guess the word of caution I would offer, and it's our own hard-won experience, is Schaeffler can put on hoodies and wear jeans and combat trousers to talk to you. But ultimately, the person in Schaeffler who will be buying the technology is wearing a suit with a spreadsheet and is going to be focused on numbers. And the mood changes.
Sure.
So never be misled, because ultimately, you're going to be talking to an accountant to sell your company to a company.
At the end of your idea, there will always be an accountant.
There's going to be an accountant.
So get used to it. Okay. You got a microphone up there? Questions, thoughts, provocative ideas? Okay, I'll tell you. Yeah, please.
You want a provocative ideas? Okay, one of those. What do you think? Sometimes building of those bridges could be another problem for a small idea and a big business, because there is another people involved with other motivations. They can steal, they can have other motivations that we don't know. What do you think about this?
Yes, it's a long journey, and it's like a relay race when you can drop the button in various places. Stealing ideas, we keep hearing about it all the time. People who came up with some idea, or they've done some research, they've invested a lot of time in developing that. And of course they see it something like a treasure, like a baby. But the reality is, it's extremely difficult to develop a business from an idea, and not everybody wants it, and not everybody is capable of that. So just stealing your idea doesn't mean these people can do anything with that. So don't be afraid. My real advice is, my first advice, don't be afraid that people will steal your idea. Even when they steal, they don't know what to do with that. And second, yes, you'll meet a lot of people along the way on this bridge. And the way you communicate, the way you talk to these people, your social skills are very, very important. What we see very often in our entrepreneurs, the tech entrepreneurs, who think that their technology is everything. So it's just about their technology, and lack of social skills, lack of understanding of the system, lack of understanding of the importance of the network. And my biggest dream is that just people stop looking for answers in their smartphones because they think there's everything. Mm-hmm. Just talk to people, go to conferences, talk to investors, talk to industry, talk to universities. This is where the real life is. Right. And everybody will try and help you to cross this bridge. I've met wonderful people who are willing to help because they are part of the ecosystem. This is their job, to help us to succeed.
Great, thanks. We have got a question, but a little more. Siri, how can I get rich? doesn't work. Yeah.
No, I don't have an answer to your question, but to respond to
Yeah,
the
exactly.
earlier
Yeah, sure.
question, we meet a lot of idea holders coming from the research institutes and universities, also startup entrepreneurs. Very often people are a bit concerned about their IPs and be a bit of a secretives. But my advice to you and people like having these concerns, and do not sell the IP or set the IP topics aside for a while and try to discuss about your value, what your the technology and IP can provide, what sort of value they can provide to your customer or industrial organizations.
We don't go into details.
Don't go into the details. Sell the big story, sell the value your technology can provide, and later on you can deal with the IPs, NDAs, and so forth.
Okay, great. We got I believe here. Yeah, please stand up and let us know where you're from.
Hi, my name's Robert Miles. I'm from the UK, and I just wanted to ask a question about funding and from a European point of view. We're talking often about government and government funding going into universities, but what about government funding of the investment itself and government support through tax reliefs? Are there any particular countries within Europe that are better at supporting that than others?
Do we know that in the panel?
Well, at least in Latvia, we now have a new initiative, acceleration funds, which are basically European money. And the government started 3 funds to manage, and we as a Commercialization Reactor are part of this program. We are one of the fund managers. So this is actually government money going into investment, early stage investment. And this is money which we were looking for and waiting for a long time. This is very much needed, and congratulations to our government, and big thank you to the government that they made it available to deep tech startups. Really very, very valuable initiative.
Okay, great. I'd really like to get to Anton and Barry on the move here. Anton, can you help us a little bit? You are founder of a startup. Could you help us a little bit along from your experience? You are right in the middle of stuff. Were there any particular moments or time in your journey that was particularly important? You could help us with understandings, like disruptions of your thinking.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I would also add to 2 previous questions that would blend into your answer.
Sure.
So it all starts with like idea, which is there's never a unique idea. There's unique execution. There's unique timing on execution, which matters. So speaking about this, well, not speaking to anybody, keeping it to yourself won't help you, because somebody else who will be speaking and gathering smarter people than him in to execute, he will benefit and get to the result first. So, well, just to make this one clear, in my startup, your question was like, to wrap it up, like what are the specific challenges and some thoughts? That
is a particular area, moments in your journey where you said, there I understood we were thinking completely wrong about the whole thing, or there we changed stuff that was essential to succeed.
Well, yes, obviously. We were wrong every day. We do mistakes, then we change, we elaborate. This is what we do, we learn, and we have to learn fast before we fail. So this happens, to be honest, with each team every day, and you just have to be truthful to yourself. Like in my startup, one of the most important moments is we have already an established strategy of purchasing some hardware stuff to deliver the prototype, and at a certain moment, just before purchasing it, we found out that it would be a wrong strategy. Okay. So before spending 80,000 euros to something that won't work, it was important to, well, get back to our drawing table and think of something else. Okay. And understand and be truthful to ourselves that we, at that moment, don't really have a plan in that particular moment, but we would very soon have. And because we have smart people around, advisors, investors, etc., we come with a plan quite fast. Yeah, speaking about this. Also about public funding. Also to make you happy, like yesterday we had almost, approximately €500,000 committed to
okay, you should have
as public financing for Conelum. So yeah, obviously, as me being a CEO, I am thinking of adding value to the company and do it in a mostly non-dilutive way for our shareholders, for the board, for investors, for entrepreneurs and scientists. Therefore, getting public money for the startup is very important, but you have to understand and bear in mind that it is very toxic.
Sure.
So, and in order to evade its toxic effect, you have to, have a very smoothly formed team that would use this funding to achieve goals.
Sure.
And this is what's important about accelerators and acceleration money also, and about intellectual tools, that they help the team to establish this smoothness of thinking of what you are willing to achieve with this money.
As a CEO, I suspect the communication becomes increasingly important. You need to communicate to your investors stuff that they might not even understand. What's your perception about communication? You must have grown in that area.
Well, in Conelum's case, we have no problems in telling investors and them understanding what we're doing, because, well, they understand the field.
Okay.
And obviously it's a matter of me putting the words together for them to understand.
Sure.
So yes, we're in the deep tech field, but everything could be explained in a very simple manner. So in our case, it was not a problem.
Sure.
We always find the common language.
Yeah. Barry, you're from a university, and you're sitting with this problem or opportunity that there's people in your university that is developing stuff that could grow into a business. What are your greatest challenges and advices and so on?
Well, they vary whereabouts you are in that journey.
Sure.
As an earlier slide from one of the presenters said, start where you are now. So we sit centrally in the university, so we get invention disclosures from our academics who do great research and come up with a new idea, which is generally a technology push to the outside world. And it's our role to ensure that technology push, there's actually a need out somewhere in the real world that someone will say, if we can do this for you, would you be interested in buying it? Would you be interested in co-developing it with us? So our role is on that interface between technology push and industry business pull.
Yeah. If you could say something to the entrepreneurial side, is there something, or the business side, is there something they can do better? I'm sure that the scientists, they are in full development in how to approach and talk the language of the accountants and so on. What could you hope would be different in the coming years?
I think the program that we're all part of here is really exciting, because certainly in the UK there's been a push to make academics more entrepreneurial and make them the future CEOs of their companies and their spin-outs, which by and large hasn't worked very well.
Okay.
The unique approach of this is that we've got deep technology, and we will partner with entrepreneurs who will take that to market on our behalf. So the scientist stays the scientist. Has a role in the company, but they are a scientist at heart. So I think that's what the really unique value for us is in this.
Yeah.
We're sticking with our knitting. That's a UK phrase. Yeah. Stick to your knitting. Stick
to it.
What you're good at.
Okay, great. Yeah, we got a microphone here.
Does it work? Yes. Can I introduce myself? My name is Artur Bernes, and I always have a little bit provocative questions, okay? We are very much about philosophical things, about big visions and stuff like that. But can you exactly, every one of you, can say a real example from life where you can share your experience where some product is used by real people like me, everyone here. Thank you.
I'm not sure. There's plenty of suggestions. Let's hear, is there any in the audience who want to give? Anyway, let's get a couple of examples.
I'm not sure I'm responding to your question, but I'll be equally provocative. I don't understand cryptocurrencies. Blockchain, yeah, I'll invest in that. Cryptocurrencies, I've got no idea after the initial surge why that's seen as even sensible. Autonomous vehicles, I turn to my colleague here. From an environmental point of view, I don't get it.
Sure.
Why aren't we investing in zero carbon vehicles if we want to actually improve the environment on the road?
Yeah, sure.
Artificial intelligence is now so frothy, it's really quite hard to make an investment in it because the valuations of the companies bear no resemblance to reality.
Sure.
So anyway, don't know if that helps, but there's a few ideas that you can respond to.
If there's no more questions, I'd like we end sort of the last part of the panel discussion.
I would like to add. I would like to add something because we talked a little bit about challenges.
Sure.
And from my perspective, and also from Schaeffler's perspective, it's really important when we are in touch with startups. Then we understand your USP. I mean, your unique selling proposition. So what's really unique about you? So that then it comes to communication, and it also comes to really understand your customer. So because we would be possibly your customer, and to know your customer, understand your customer. In our case, I said we want to change the future, shape the future of mobility, and we have a clear strategy about that, and we communicate this very openly to get in touch with people who want to contribute to this. So if a startup wanted to collaborate with us, then we would expect to understand the strategy. We have clear fields of action, for example, eco-friendly drives, urban mobility, interurban mobility, and the fourth field that we have is the energy chain. So we communicate this, and we would expect that also the other side who wants to collaborate with us deals with that, understands what our needs are, and then I think we would come together. If you don't understand, and if you don't know your customer, and if you don't understand your customer, then it's going to be really, I think, problematic. Because in the end, you won't be alone. So you need someone who's interested in your ideas and in your approaches, and maybe in your products that you want to offer.
Sure. Well, that sounds like a essential advice. I'd like to put to you really the question. You know, Latvia is taking this subject seriously, clearly. What would be your advice? What would be your suggestion for the next year or two? What would be the most important aspect to grab hold of, to kick around with, to get the ecosystem right? I mean, we've been talking a lot about the ecosystem. You can't do it alone, as you say. What should Latvia do, or we could take all the Baltic countries? Do you want to start?
Yes, as Latvia is a relatively small country, relatively small economy, my personal advice would be that you should put all your efforts together. In other words, universities, research institutes, startups, they cannot conquer the world alone. Whereas if they put all the corners of this knowledge triangle, universities, industry, and research organization, if they put all their efforts together and make programs, projects together, and co-create and instead of everyone trying to implement something themselves.
Yeah.
EIT has a very good model. We call it the knowledge triangle model. We have special programs, incentives, and instruments to support this sort of activity. So there is a solution. There must be a need to do this together.
I sometimes travel around, help accelerators, and then I come to a small country here, or Denmark or whatever, and I advise one accelerator and say, please don't go to the other accelerator because we are best and we don't want them to succeed. You advise highly against that in a small country.
Yeah, if you go to any European capital or any larger city, there are big number of accelerators,
sure.
Be it private, semi-private, public-funded accelerators.
Sure.
We also have accelerator programs, and we tend to believe that we have something different to offer. EIT has a huge number of industrial partners involved with our organization. So what we can offer, what we believe is somewhat unique, we can provide access to industry.
Sure.
We can provide support for startups, SMEs, to get access to real industrial customers.
Sure. Let's get some quickies here from you about this aspect of what to do. Yes, please.
Yeah, because
Ella?
we are from Latvia, just two people from Latvia, and I want to pick your point about industry. This is really what we're lacking here. There are three elements, research, entrepreneurship, and industry. And Latvia being a very small economy, we need to understand that we need to have access to industry which is outside of Latvia. So this is where we need to partner with accelerators like yourselves, with big companies like Schaeffler. This is where the real customers is. And unless we understand that, we'll be doing and reinventing the wheel again and again.
Sure.
So open up and go and try to get access outside the country.
A few more brave advisors from inside and outside Latvia.
Both. So imagine entrepreneur, scientist, and other players like accelerators, government, etc., being flour, water, and yeast for doing bread.
Sure.
It's very important that, well, startup is bread here in this case. In order to have it done, it's not just enough to mix it. You have to apply smart tools for it. You have to apply intellectual tools like smart acceleration, etc., etc. So it's very important for each party, and I'm speaking here about government, accelerators, incubators, to do the stuff they're professionals at.
Sure.
So not try to do everything by themselves.
Okay.
Like tech transfer, a university tech transfer is trying to build the startups and do everything about them. So, no, it's a teamwork. Otherwise, we're screwed.
Sure. Good. I like the analogy. Great.
I am going to be boring because I have to agree with Ella and other colleagues, which is if I were to ask the Latvian government to focus on something, it would be creating links with customers and industry. Because you've got smart people, you've got great universities, you've got early stage funding, you've got advice. Sales is the challenge. We see it in our portfolio in Latvia. But equally what I see in our portfolio in Latvia is companies that are selling in China, that are setting up in America, that are setting up in other parts of Europe. There's something about the entrepreneurs in this part of the world which there's an internationalism built in to the DNA, and that's why we're attracted and continuing to be involved here. But it's hard. Sure. And, I agree. Anything that could be done to increase contacts with industry, to help with the channels to customers, should be done as a priority.
And is the government the best party?
No, sorry, I thought the question was what could be added with public funding.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the government is the only one at all, but if I were to be asked what is the priority for public funding, I would say you've done lots of great stuff. Here's something that's still a significant fracture in the system.
I get it, yeah, sure.
Well, I think I couldn't give you advice how to change the ecosystem or how to improve it, but I would like to give an example from our perspective. So obviously I'm sitting here. There must be a reason why I'm sitting here, why Schaeffler is here. You could say, okay, someone invited us, but there is more behind that. We, as Schaeffler, have integrated NACO Technologies. NACO Technologies was a Latvian startup with a unique selling property. Their technological USP was a unique coating technology, and they somehow managed to draw our attention. And so in this case, I would say you should really not only rely on governmental support, obviously that's important, but you should really put effort into drawing attention from your possible customers or from your collaboration partners. And in our case, they draw our attention on a scientific conference. So it's really, really very much in the depth of the topic that they were dealing with. And so we integrated them into Schaeffler, and now they are part of Schaeffler, and we can make use of this technology, of this deep tech understanding what they have in their portfolio.
I think this is a magnificent place to end, unless you've got one more. Any questions? We do have a question. Let's get one more question, and then there's lunch. Over here. Please present yourself.
Yeah, Andres Krasnikovs, Riga Technical University professor. Thank you for coming. Thank you for such meeting here. It's very nice, and I really can appreciate. But this startup way is only way from one side. Another question is how to walk from the another end. We have, for example, we have in Latvia thousands of companies, and thousands of companies are not really interested in innovation, on innovation very slowly. What is necessary to do to accelerate this second end, to accelerate this interest from companies? Your ideas, please.
Yeah, please, Anton.
I think it's something that most regions struggle with. There are very few unicorns. There are lots of companies that survive, do very happily, especially on the smaller end, where they make a good profit and they don't want to stay at work later. They're happy doing what they are. They've got no problems. I think it's trying to motivate those people to become more unicorn-like, and that can be done through technology engagement. So there might be a company who's very sort of run-of-the-mill, but if you can engage them in some kind of technology cooperation, it comes at them, it engages another part of their sort of psyche. So they get excited about the technology and how that technology can make their company better, grow faster. So you're not appealing to that, well, I've got to sell more, I've got to do more. You're engaging the other side of that company. I think, who has to do that? Everybody. So me as a person who works on the interface between universities and industry, I go out and try and meet as many people as I can. My colleagues do, and everybody who works in this role in universities goes out and meets lots of people, tries to make contacts, tries to engage people. So there's a saying that you've got to go out and kiss lots of frogs before you find your prince. So that's what we do. We go out and kiss lots and lots of frogs.
Can I ask you a question? Are we getting too locked up in the idea of unicorns? Is it really a little bit of a problem? Everyone want to create the new YouTube and Snapchat, or what? Sometimes I get that sense.
I think this is a problem because everybody wants to be the new Apple or YouTube, but there is much more to that, and very often companies and researchers and startups who work in deep technologies, you won't even know what their products are because they are working on the process improvement, they incorporate their products into industrial cycles. You won't even see them in the market as a product, but they are very, very successful. Sure. So I think this is, we are paying too much attention to a couple very successful companies, but there is much more to that, and the success can come from any side.
And isn't it, I mean, mathematically, the idea of exponential is that it actually does go slow in the beginning. Or what do you think?
I think there are two different perspectives. There is the financial investment perspective, and there's the public policy perspective.
Sure.
From a financial investment perspective, our shareholders would be delighted if we did nothing but invest in fairly trivial things like Uber, which frankly is a unicorn for a fairly trivial social outcome.
Sure.
Slightly better taxi service. So what?
Agreed.
From a public policy outcome, we want to solve global warming. We want to decarbonize transport. We want to create new materials. These are less likely to be unicorns in quite the same way.
Yeah.
So I think we have to understand, well, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
Satisfy shareholders or address public policy outcomes. They're both critical, and you have to do both.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the unicorn debate maybe becomes interesting.
Right. And with this, we would like to say thank you for spending your precious time here. It's a privilege to meet you.